standing there saying we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. Somebody sing
We
it.
shall overcome.
Believe it now, we shall.
We shall overcome.
Yeah,
someday.
I know it gets hard
Deep in
sometimes.
my heart,
Oh, I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
Welcome to the Operation Push Forum of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Put your hands together, everybody. We're coming to you live from the Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church. This is the church founded by our Chairman Emeritus, the iconic Reverend Clay Evans. Give him some love today. He and our First Lady, Mrs. Luther May Evans. You can do better than that today. We are so excited at 50th in Princeton at 1 o'clock today, Central Standard Time. We are going to be renaming the Fellowship Manor after our founding pastor, the Reverend Clay Evans. Put your hands together, everybody. We want you to meet us over there. I gotta have some more enthusiasm today. Come on. All right. We're so excited to be here. My name is Santita Jackson. I am the host of the Santita Jackson Show on the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT, and the executive producer and co-host of Reverend Jackson's nationally syndicated radio show, Keep Hope Alive. Today and tomorrow, we are going to be talking about these strikes that are breaking out all over the country, the nurses who are striking, the paraprofessionals of the teachers union in Chicago who are looking at strikes. We are looking at the teachers who are looking at strikes. We are looking at United Auto Workers. It seems to me that working people all over, it seems to us here at Rainbow Push, that workers are striking all over. And what are they looking for? Safe working conditions. Our teachers are looking for librarians, but you need to have libraries, and if you have libraries, you need to have books. In many of our schools, we do not have books in Chicago and all across the country. One out of 3 schools in Chicago last year went without a teacher. Can you believe that? That is why they are looking at a strike on October 7th. And so we're going to hear them make their case, a case that has been made in West Virginia and throughout the country by teachers who are looking to slow the roll of the privatization of public monies. Amen? Come on now, I need to hear you. All right, all right, all right. And we're sending our love to so many people today. Of course, our founder, Reverend Jesse Jackson, is not with us today physically, but he is here with us in spirit. And so we send him we send him our love, traveling grace and mercies to you, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Come on, give him some love. It's been a tremendous birthday week. In fact, we're going into Reverend Jackson's birthday. Can you believe he will be 78 on October 8th? Wow. What a blessing. And we're going to be celebrating all over the country his birthdays as we look at Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, our senior vice president, the pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Yusuf Jackson, my baby sister Jackie Jackson, Dr. J. She's having a birthday. Hermine Hartman, television host and publisher. We've got a lot of birthdays, and you know what? We encourage you to reach out to us throughout the week so that we can get these announcements, these national announcements, because even though we embrace Reverend Jackson in Chicago, you do know that he belongs to the world. And so, yes. And so our brothers and sisters and our affiliates in Detroit, in Los Angeles, in New York, in Washington, in Atlanta, in London, in Johannesburg, all over the world, in Sweden, we encourage you to get in touch with us at rainbowpush.org, rainbowpush.org. Send us notes. Go to Reverend Jackson's syndicated radio show, keephopealiveradio.com. We're on from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time tomorrow. We're going to be talking about these strikes tomorrow. And we send our condolences, as we did last week, to the family of Byron Brazier, Reverend Byron Brazier, of the Apostolic Church of God here in Chicago. He and his wife lost their daughter. We're sending them love, but again, we encourage you to send us these messages, to get in touch with us throughout the week from all over the country and all over the world, because we want to reach out to you here on the Impact Television Network, which is the largest African-American-owned church network in the country, if not the world. Put your hands together for them. Next week, we will be at the Greater Harvest Church. Oh, Elder Eric Thomas, you know we love Elder Thomas. Go on, put your hands together, everybody. All right, 5141 South State. We will meet you there next week at 9:30. And as we put our hands together, we want to welcome the Restoration Church, their mentoring group, the Sons of Thunder, Pastor Michael Bonds. Give them some love, everybody. You can do better than that today. I know it's raining outside, but it's not raining in your hearts. And if it's raining, it's washing something away that does not belong there anyway. Hey, okay? All right, all right. Let's put our hands together and we have such a great musical minister in our midst, Maurice Mahan, who's won so many contests all around this country and all around this world. But you know what? He's ours. Everybody put your hands together as we are ministered to in song.
Come on, put your hands together one more time. We're going to do like we do Sunday mornings, if y'all don't mind. Chris Hodges here with us. Come on, give him a hand. Song goes like this. I've got a feeling everything's going to be all right. Oh, I've got a feeling everything's going to be all right. I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright, be alright, be alright, be alright. Y'all can sing it with us. Oh, I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Oh, I got a feeling that everything's gonna be alright. I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright, be alright. Y'all clap your hands with it. Be alright. Oh, the Holy Ghost told me everything gonna be alright. Oh, the Holy Ghost told me everything's gonna be alright. Somebody know that the Holy Ghost told me everything's gonna be alright. Yeah. Be alright. Yeah. Be alright. Be alright. Yeah. Listen, y'all. I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Can I get a witness? I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Come on, put your hands together. I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Hey, be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Come on, clap your hands, everybody. Listen, the Holy Ghost told me everything's gonna be alright. Oh, the Holy Ghost told me everything's gonna be alright. Oh, the Holy Ghost told me everything's gonna be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. One more time. I got a feeling everything will be alright. Yeah. Oh, I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Yeah.
You can do so much better than that today. Aren't you glad today? Remember, the Civil Rights Movement is a church Felicia. We can see you on the U from 6 to 8. Can we get you online? I want you to pass that information to me so I can announce it when we get back. Brilliant young woman who's here in Chicago, but we want to launch her nationally because we've got some great talent here, right? Stand up. Felicia Lawrence, everybody. Come on, give her some love. And she's also from an HBCU, which, woman after my own heart. Howard's in the house, but North Carolina A&T. Okay. It's only where my parents met and married, but my brothers went there, my sister went there. It's great. We love these HBCUs, and we've got a great Morehouse man who's going to be the new pastor of this church, but I'm going to bring him up in just a few minutes. Pastor Sharp, don't you love him? Come on, put your hands together. I've not introduced him yet, but Associate Pastor Reginald Sharp bring so much of the history and the old ways to us, and we're so excited about that. You know, as we do this, as I bring Pastor Sharp to us, I want you to please push on your prayer list, but also we need your support. Freedom is not free. It's not free. It's something that you have to pay for all the time, and no one's going to sponsor you into freedom. You have to do that yourself. And so in order to keep the lights on, in order to keep Reverend traveling, in order to keep our staff traveling, in order for us to keep a staff, we need you. And in fact, we're doing a lot of things in the building, Felicia. We want to try and get you over. We had your husband over the other week. This week, we are going to be meeting with Let's Talk with Santita Jackson and friends on Monday night. Doors open at 6 o'clock at 930 East 50th Street. And of course, we will go up at Facebook Live at 6:45. We're going to be talking about the teacher strike. Many of us do not know why our teachers and paraprofessionals, all of the people who work in the schools, I'm not drawing a line, Crystal, between everybody. We don't know why you are walking out. We don't know why the nurses are walking out. When we found out last week that these nurses are protesting unsafe conditions for those of us who have to go into the hospital, it kind of changed our minds. When you see that children are being asked to take home notes to their parents to ask for toilet paper. Our children don't have toilet tissue in the schools. There is no library, which means there are no books. That's why these people are protesting. That's why, and these people who serve our children their food are working at poverty wages. Now, you know we can do better than that. If we can find billions for other people, we can certainly find millions, if not billions, for our children and for the people who work for them. So we want you to stay tuned right here on the Rainbow Push Forum, on the Saturday morning forum of Operation Push that is sponsored by Rainbow Push. We want you to stay right here because they are going to make their case for all of us, as we will do on the Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson radio show. It gives me great pleasure to bring this young man of God to you. One of the things that we love about our pastor, the Reverend Clay Evans, who we will be honoring as we rename the Fellowship Manor after him today at 1 o'clock at 50 and Princeton. We hope that you will join us over there, just 5 blocks from this church. We've seen him retire, and we've seen him build succession. We've had Pastor Charles Jenkins, who we have been blessed with by 2 decades, and we're watching Pastor Charles Jenkins as he continues to expand his ministry. Pass the baton yet again. How many of us have seen that? Yes? We have, yes, it's an institution. Now put your hands together, everybody, because he's showing us how to continue to build our institutions, to go beyond the personal into that which will be sustaining. And so this young man, who is a Morehouse man, he is a singer, he is a scholar, he is a man of God, and he has come to us bringing us the tradition that our grandparents and forebears have had. And we're so excited. He's just filling up this church as never before. Come on, everybody, put your hands together for our associate pastor, Dr. Reginald Sharp.
Is pushing the house. I said it's pushing the house. Come on, give yourselves a hand for being here this morning. Seriously, give yourselves a hand. We welcome each of you into this space, and I want you to go ahead and spread some love even in the room. So look at that person seated right beside you and tell them, I'm glad I sat by you. Tell them, I'm glad I sat by you. And give them a hand for their work. Give them a hand for their labor. Give them a hand for all of the necessary things that they are doing to make sure our community progresses. It is an absolute honor that you all are here today at Fellowship. Will you all help me salute my big sister, Mrs. Dr. Santita Jackson? Can we celebrate her today? Thank you so much for all that you do, carrying on your mother and your father's legacy. It is significant that you are here at Fellowship Push. The Rainbow Push Coalition was founded here in the basement of Fellowship. Pastor Clay Evans was the founding chairperson of the board of Push. Reverend Charles Jenkins was a board member and a chairperson over the board. And so you being here in this space really signifies you all coming back home. I want you to know that you're welcomed into this space. It's significant that Reverend Jackson has done all of this work for the advancement of all people throughout the years, and he's an ordained clergy person. And some people would wrestle. Why is he engaging the community? Why is he pushing against systems of oppression, and he's called to be a preacher? And the truth is, you cannot separate social activism and spirituality. Let me say that again. You cannot separate social activism and spirituality. And then there are others that say, why are any of you people of faith? Why are you connected to Christianity? It's a white man's religion. Some people believe that. And the truth is, some of our enslavers handed us a corrupted religion, but black folks are so genius that we handed them back a corrected religion. And while they were over in the New Testament talking about slaves obey your master, some of our ancestors went over to the Old Testament and said, no, he also said, let my people go. He also said that we will be a people to let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. You can't separate your faith from your focus, your spirituality from your social activism. And I want you to know, as I prepare to become the next pastor of Fellowship, January 1 of 2020, not only do I need you praying for me, but I make a commitment that Fellowship will continue the legacy of being actively involved in the progression of our people, and not just our people, but all people. Can somebody make some noise for that? The ship sails on. You are welcome into this space, and may we all leave here a little bit more enlightened. May we all leave here just a little bit more encouraged after what we hear and what we gain, not just from the Spirit, but in our senses as well. Let the church say amen.
Oh, don't you love this Associate Pastor Reginald Sharp? Come on, everybody. Come on, I need some enthusiasm this morning. Aren't you glad to be alive today? Are you not glad? Come on, now show me some sign. Come on. All right. We are so excited every week. This gentleman, Judge Stanley Hill, takes his time to work with our young people to not just teach them to speak and to give them, he gives them encouragement. You know, many of our young people, if you ask them their names, they don't give us their full names like you used to do. Many of our young people, when you speak to them, they can't look you in the eye like we were taught to do back in the day. But he has seen that, and what he does do is infuse our children with a sense of their somebodyness. He lets them know this is how you need to comport yourself. I don't want you to be afraid to speak to or before anyone. That's what he does. Day after day, week after week, and when they come to Rainbow Push, and when they are on Operation Push Forum, we're able to see some of his work, not all of his work. Before I bring on this young lady, I want you to give your love to Judge Stanley Hill. Come on, give him some love, everybody. Please. Because we remind you, on Monday nights, we have a volunteer. We are pulling our volunteers together because this is a volunteer-driven organization. We've always had a small staff and a huge cadre of volunteers, and the push is on, and we need you to come on back. We need the teachers, we need the doctors, we need the social workers, we need the garbage workers, we need everybody to come to Push, because this is your organization. Now, everybody, I want you to put your hands together for this 10th grader. She's not a beautiful young woman, but I love the fact that she's smarter than that. Essence Gatherite of the Lynn Bloom Math and Science School. It's not Whitney Young, but I'm not mad at you.
Hello, my name is Essence Gatherite, and today I will be reciting a piece titled Somewhere in America. Here in America, in every single state, they have a set of standards for every subject, a collection of lessons that the teacher is required to teach by the end of the term. But the greatest lessons you will ever teach us will not come from your syllabus. The greatest lessons you will ever teach us are the ones that we don't even remember learning. Somewhere in America, there is a child holding a copy of Catcher in the Rye, and there's a child holding a gun. But only one of these things have been banned by his state government. And it's not the one that can rip through flesh. It's the one that has a curse word on one page, on more pages than one. Because we must control what the people think and how they speak. And if they want to become the overseer of their own selves, then we'll show them a real one. Somewhere in America, a child sits at the homepage of the KKK's website that is open to the public. But that child will never have read To Kill a Mockingbird because his school has banned it for its usage of the N-word. Maya Angelou is prohibited in schools because we're not allowed to talk about rape. We were taught that just because something happens doesn't mean that you are to speak on it. They build us brand new shopping malls so they will forget where we're really standing, on the bones of the Hispanics, on the bones of the slaves, on the bones of those who fought just to speak. Transcontinental railroads to Japanese internment camps, there are things missing from our history books. But we were taught that it's better to be silent than make them uncomfortable. Somewhere in America, private school girls search through hours through boutiques, trying to find the prom dress of their dreams, while kids on the South Side spend hours searching through the lost and found because winter's coming soon and that's the only jacket they have. They give awards for best attendance, but not for keeping your family off the street when kids are late for working the midnight shift, but their mom works for the city and they only get paid once a month, but mama has the same 3 mouths to feed every month. Somewhere in America, these kids will call your music ghetto. They will tell you that you don't talk right. Then they'll get in the backseat of the car with all their friends and sing about how they're about that life and we can't stop. Somewhere in America, schools are promoting self-confidence while they whip out their scales and shout out your body fat percentage in class. While the heftier girls are hiding away and the slim-fit beauties can't help but giggle with pride. Somewhere in America, there is a child being felt up by a grown man on the subway. She's still in her school uniform, but that's a part of the appeal. It's hard to run in knee socks and Mary Janes, and all her male teachers knows this too. Coaches cover up star players being raping freshmen after the dance. Take a picture before her wounds wake her. How many pixels is your sanity worth? What's a 4.0 to a cold jury? What you learned in class today? Don't walk fast, keep your head down, keep your eyes on your own paper. If you don't know the answer, fill in C. Always wear earbuds when you ride the bus alone. If you feel like someone's following you, pretend you're on the phone. Every single state in America, the teacher never fails, only you do. Thank you. I would like to thank Rainbow Push and Fellowship Baptist Church for this opportunity to speak to you all today.
Essence Gather Right, everybody. Come on, give her some love. Wow, this is like Living for the City, Part 2, amen? We don't know what our children are going through. We don't know what one another might be experiencing. We only know when they tell us. Wow, she said a whole lot. Miss Gatherite, we're gonna have you come back to do this again because people need to hear you. Give her some love. Essence Gatherite of the great Lynn Bloom High School. Math and science, indeed, among two of our youngest founding board members, Aline Walker, who went to college at 15 or 16. She came out of Lynn Bloom. Great things come out of Lynn Bloom, and we are so excited about a Chicago public school. She is a product of that. Come on, give her some more love, everybody. Come on, keep your hands together, because the next voice you're going to hear will be the executive director of our Push Excel program, but she's also a senior advisor to Reverend Jesse Jackson. But in addition to all of these things, she is the pastor of the Fernwood United Methodist Church here in Chicago. Come on, everybody. I am somebody. Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson. Come on, everybody.
Good morning, Fellowship, and good morning, Rainbow Push family. Reverend Jackson is having plane difficulties arriving here today, and so that's why he's not here. I know you're looking for him. With the storm that happened last night, he was delayed in getting back to the city. However, he wants you to know that he's expecting you to do some unusual things for the remainder of this year. He will be doing a great deal of traveling as he goes to our satellite offices and attends the summits in Atlanta and in Los Angeles and in Detroit. And so what he needs Chicago to do in particular, but those of you who watch us every week, we need your memberships. It's $35 a year, and all you have to do is go to rainbowpush.org. You can join, or you can call us at 773-256-2775. There are people waiting to get your phone call, waiting to get your contribution. The other thing, in our national headquarters, we've never had enough staff to do all of the work of a movement. For example, the Bahamian relief effort requires an additional group of people who will not only donate materials, but also pack them, sort them, remove things that we can't send to the Bahamas. And so we need you to volunteer if you want to be part of our relief committee. Well, if you say, I don't want to do that, well, Teddy Gilmore is going to be heading our HBCU alumni HBCU tour committee. If you want to help send busloads of young people from around the nation to historic black colleges, you might want to join that committee. You say, well, I'm not interested in that. Well, maybe you want to help sponsor some of our events. You want to work on the Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast. You may say, I have some greeters, I have some people that can do graphics, I have some people that can do data entry. Or if you like Dolores Scott, she says, I'm a social worker. I know about homelessness. I know about the needs of families and children. Well, we need that expertise at Push, so we need you to volunteer. Well, you say, I'm a retired teacher. I'm sitting at home. I've gotten bored with my retirement. I've already got my money straight, but I got to do something. Well, I can come one day a week. I can work with the Push Excel program. Well, you say, I don't want to do that. You say, well, I'm interested in buying black products. I want to know which ones are black products that we put on the shelves. I want to be a part of the consumer club. I want to see black businesses grow and develop. And so you can come and be a part of the consumer club. Well, you say, I'm not interested in that. I'm more civically minded. I want to do civic engagement. Well, you might want to attend the board meeting. I attended the Chicago Board of Education meeting, and I noticed that the majority of the people in the room were staff from CPS. We need to pack the room out, and then we need to force them to come out in the community where it's easier for us. They need to be at our schools so they can see the problems that the schools have. And so you might want to be on that committee, or you want to go to the city council meeting, or maybe you want to go to the Cook County Board meeting. We need you to go to these meetings, and this is all around the country, to find out what are they doing, what kind of legislation are they passing, what kind of things are they doing in Springfield. So that's the Civic Engagement Committee. Well, you say, I want to register voters, I want to do research, I want to do data entry, I want to be on the phone bank, I can sing, I want to be in the choir, I want to be a musician, I can play something, I want to be a part of the band, I want to be a hostess, I'm a good greeter, I smile, I like people, well, I want to be where people are. You might want to be a hostess. I want to bring movies to Push. I want to work with, I want to work with social media. Whatever it is, you can do it at Push. And if you're interested in volunteering your time, you don't have to give every day. You just need to give us some days every month. Meet us Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Want to sign you up. Now, you do know everyone can't work with children, so don't say you can work with children when you have some issues in your background, because we can't have you do that, but there's some other things you can do. We want you to, you might want to be a part of the trade bureau. You may be like Benny Payne. You have a business. You want to expand your business. You want to grow your business. There's something for everyone. We don't just want you to be a bench member. We want you to be a volunteer that helps this organization grow and develop. We want to develop, expand, and grow. And we want you to be a part of the youth division. You say, I'm a millennial, I'm young, I'm a young executive. Well, we can teach you how to make it in the corporate mainstream. Never been there, can't tell been there how to get there. So we're going to help you survive what we know you will. Well, I have to go now, but we want you to join us Tuesday night. And so I want the seniors, those who worked before and you've now retired, we're going to help young people keep their jobs, get a raise, and take care of their families and grow and develop in the way that we did. And I we have a great panel coming up. As soon as you see this video and you listen to Mayhan and Chris, we will have Bob Ryder, President of Chicago Federation of Labor. He's going to join us. We have the National Nurses United, Sheila Garland. She's going to join us. We have Bill McNair, Executive Director of Citizens Action. And then we have Crystal Williams. She's the recording secretary of Chicago's Teachers Union. We're going to find out, what is this labor all about? What are labor unions striking about? What's the deal? You'll know as soon as we come back from this video. Pay attention to the video.
The country laid to rest 2 foot soldiers of the civil rights movement, Mrs. Juanita Abernathy and Mrs. Emily England Clyburn. They sacrificed and endured and were both the foundation of their husband's fortitude. May they rest in peace. She rose. Striking while the iron is hot. Chicago teachers have voted to authorize a strike. Chicago Park District workers vote to strike. The UAW strike against GM continues, drags, and 83,000 Kaiser Permanente workers prepare to strike. What's going on? The issues. Workers around the country are fighting for fair wages, affordable quality health care, their share of profits, job security, a defined plan to permanent seniority for temps. And young climate strikers from around the world in over 150 countries made their demands known earlier this week during the historic global climate strike. Rainbow Push was there to shine the spotlight on why the climate crisis will not wait. Understanding the native proverb, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Reverend Jackson attended the UN Climate Change Summit. A change is gonna come. He's a long-distance runner. Fighting for you is what we do. How much ground did Reverend Jackson cover this week? He's still making the hits. Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. was invited to attend the Motown Museum groundbreaking ceremony for its $50 million expansion during a celebration of Motown's 60th anniversary. The past illuminates the future. Reverend Jackson met with His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, during a 2019 Foundation of Orthopedics and Complex Spine fundraising gala in New York City, advocating for diplomacy. Reverend Jackson and International Affairs Director James Gomez met with Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arriaza to support Venezuela and the Embassy Protection Collective. Against the backdrop of impeachment inquiries, voting matters. On National Voter Registration Day, Illinois Political Director Betty Magnus and Rainbow Push registrars, along with the League of Women Voters, registered 89 voters at Harold Washington College. Ms. Magnus and Super Registrar Willie Dukes also registered 59 new voters at Southside Occupational Academy, while Ms. Daisy Camps registered voters at Rainbow Push Coalition. Fighting for an even playing field. When the rules are public and the goals are clear, we win. Nearly 51 years after the organization expelled 2 black athletes during the Summer Olympics in Mexico City for raising their gloved fist on a medal stand in silent protest of racism and injustice, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee will bestow the highest honor on the world's most iconic athletes and activists, Tommie Smith and John Carlos. They will be named to the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame. Students and education matter. This week in history, the Little Rock 9 integrated Central High School in Arkansas. We salute the brave women and men who've paved the way in declaring segregation in school unconstitutional. Bravo! The Hampton University Pirate Battalion cadets welcome displaced University of Bahamas students. They will receive free tuition, room, and board after being forced to leave due to Hurricane Dorian's devastation. In our Atlanta Peachtree Satellite office, our team emphasized the importance of safe teen driving to the students at Fulton Leadership Academy. And the world watched as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and little Archie landed in South Africa, meeting Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It was this kiss given to a young girl, overwhelmed by seeing a real princess, that truly warmed our hearts, demonstrating what the world needs is love, sweet love. Reverend Jesse Jackson ended his week by urging the crowds to keep fighting in speech launching First Baltimore Civil Rights Week. Read, share widely, and share your thoughts about this week's The Chicago Sun-Times column, Workers Are Asking, Whose Side Are You On? Written by Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, Sr. Keep hope alive. Join the movement. Join Rainbow Push.
Listen, some say my future not that bright. Some say I'm useless, unholy, not living right. The beginning of the day, I look in the mirror and say, I am somebody. Oh, listen, I believe the future's in my hands. I tell every girl, boy, woman, or man, if I can think it, I can believe it, create it and achieve it. So I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody. I may be down but not destroyed, empty but not void, 'cause I am somebody. Listen, look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, God made me so I am somebody. You can turn and walk away, but at the end of this day you gotta say I am. Come on, you all know it. Oh, I am somebody. Oh, I am. Good God Almighty now. At the end of this day, you can turn and walk away, but guess what? I am. You are. Oh, I am. Oh, I am somebody. At the end of this day, you can turn and walk away. I am somebody. Listen. Oh, so pray for me. Oh, just pray for the world with me. Oh, pray, pray for me and pray with me. Y'all sing it. Oh, so pray with me. Oh, just pray with me for the world. Just pray, pray with me for the world, for the world. Oh, so just pray with me. Oh, pray with me. Oh, so pray, pray with me. God bless you.
Give Maurice Mahan a round of applause. We only have a few minutes, and what we wanted to do is highlight the crisis in American labor, the crisis with workers, and we have an interesting panel of diverse labor leaders. I want to open up with Bob Ryder. He can tell us why labor unions are significant, particularly in these times when I've heard that we've lost 50% of unionized workers in America since the 70s.
Well, first, thank you, Dr. Wilson, for having me here today, and obviously also thanks to Reverend Jackson for his commitment and solidarity with the labor movement his entire career. Why are unions important? Well, it's if back in the 1800s a worker came up to the folks at Armour or Swift and said, I want a raise, and they did it by themselves, they wouldn't have a job the next day, right? unions provide the great equalizing force in that relationship between the boss and the worker. What unions represent, even prior to us even having rights to collectively bargain and organize, was a way for us to come together in collective action, to be that levelizing force, to be able to come together to withhold our labor in order to share more in the capital of the industry. One example, we've got a number of folks up here who have worked in the labor movement and organizing, but I think some of the starkest examples come from movements like what we saw last year with hotel workers who engaged in a multi-week strike where they took, I want to say it was 26 out of the 30 hotels on strike at one time here in the city of Chicago. There's one hotel, the Cambria Hotel off of Michigan Avenue, that's still on strike almost a year later. But if you look at the folks who walk that picket line, it's mostly women of color, Black, Latina, many of whom are room attendants, the great invisible worker in those buildings, right? I mean, let's be honest, how many people, when they walk out of their hotel room and see someone who's a room attendant and someone who goes in, turns over the beds, fluffs the pillows, and makes sure that everything is clean and nice for when we get back to our room, how many of them, when they see that person, try to move as far to the side of the wall as possible, not to bump their cart, give a polite nod, and just keep going?
Nor do they get any tips. And they're working below minimum wage for most of them. And so when we think about the American workers and you look at strikes around the country, the other group that comes to mind are the hospital workers, the nurses, people that we rely on to take care of us and or our loved ones when we can't be there to dump those bedpans and wash fevered bodies. And sometimes they don't even have the same level of health care. And so I wanted the National Nurses United Guild, Sheila Garland, to really share why did the nurses walk out? I mean, Bob is talking about unions are needed, and now the nurses were out last week.
Right, right. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me here. I think this is an absolutely vital discussion that we're having this morning. Just really briefly, National Nurses United represents some 160,000 registered nurses across the country. The nurses at University of Chicago are at about 2,300. At that hospital, which is considered the forefront of medicine, those nurses have what's called a magnet status. So that means that when you go to the University of Chicago, you should have optimal staffing, the safest conditions possible, as well as all the equipment and supplies that the nurses and the medical staff need in order to restore you to optimal health. When the nurse comes in the room to take a look at you and try to determine, based on the data collected during the course of the previous shifts or the previous days that you've been in the hospital, they develop what's called a care plan. And in order to implement that care plan, that means that they need to have adequate staffing and not need to run around the hospital looking for, I don't know, an IV pump or looking for pillows. And you would think that at a facility like the University of Chicago, that these items would be readily available. And yet and still, for this year alone, we've had 1,700 separate reports of unsafe staffing and working conditions.
Hold on, 1,700?
1,700. And this is what has driven those nurses to that one-day strike that we saw last Friday, because they have been at the bargaining table for the better part of this year, telling the management, the administration, listen, in order for us to be the forefront of medicine, in order for us to live up to this magnet status, you got to do your part. My understanding is there have been some 15 separate proposals that the nurses have presented across the table to try to improve patient care and staffing, and every last single one has been rejected. So the hospital administration, they're playing a dangerous game with the lives of the patients. They're playing a dangerous game with the employees there. And it's not just the nurses, as Bob talked about. You know, the hospital runs on the basis of ancillary staff, respiratory therapists, social workers. You have all sorts of people that touch the lives of people as we come into the hospital.
You have the service employees who clean the hospital, serve the food. Well, it's not just nurses. It's also, you've seen the teachers union, Chicago Teachers Union just declared a strike vote. Teachers are striking across the country, but there's another group underneath that we never talk about. There are two other unions. You have people that support education. You have the paraprofessionals in education, and they're essential to the functioning of a school. And so we have with us today who's going to give us another side of what's happening behind the teacher strike, and that is Crystal Williams-Hayes. She's the recording secretary of the Chicago Teachers Union. What's happening in Teachers Union?
Thank you for having me here. As you mentioned, I am a paraprofessional. I was a school clerk for 16 years prior to taking on the position as an organizer, a field rep, and now the first paraprofessional to become African American recording secretary of the union. And I sit here proud as a para to say that. And I'm here today because our paraprofessionals are the wind beneath the wings of teachers and the structure of the school. We are the ones that assure that people are paid properly. We are the ones that assure that teachers have help in the classroom when little John wants to run around and she has 20, 30, 40 other students that really want to learn. We're there to assist her. We're the ones that meet and greet the students in the morning when they run to school with nose running. We're the ones to help them tie their shoes. We're the ones to teach them. To get them prepared for class. We are that wind beneath the wings. We are the brown and black single mothers that live in the community that not only serve in the classroom, but we serve after school. We open our doors to the community. We open our doors to the kids who don't have a home such as ours to go to. We are the paraprofessionals that are paid at a poverty wage, a national poverty wage. We are paid at a national poverty wage. We are that group of people that work. We are the paraprofessionals when there's not a substitute in the building that the principals have the nerve to place in a classroom to sub, yet we're not being compensated for it. We are the clerks that sometimes have to go into the lunchroom and help keep the kids in control. We are the ones that have to go and do security, even when there's a security officer in the building. We are the ones to assist them. We are the paraprofessionals of the building. We are the ones.
You're the ones.
We are the parents that help. Wow. It is us.
And they're making poverty wages.
And we are making poverty wages and have been.
When you hear there's a strike, and the other unions start to join in, and you're trying to figure out, what are they joining for? Well, they're not making the money in the first place and overworked and underpaid. I was a paraprofessional in the summer. That kept me in college because I said, I can't do this. They send those little bad kids to the office every day.
To the clerks.
To the clerks. And you have to keep doing your little typing, and then you got to monitor baby boy over here who's cursing you, and then the mother comes up, curses you with him. So, you're going to be last because I know you're going to tell us where the therefore is. Bob, I want to ask you one more question. Omar and all of the people always marching against these construction sites because we don't see African-American tradesmen out there. What is it that you're doing now that you are the most progressive head of the Chicago Federation of Labor? What are you doing to expand opportunities for black and brown workers?
Well, thank you for saying that, Jeanette. There might be some people that have other views on, on that.
That's all right.
Specifically, John Fitzpatrick, who was president 100 years ago, but who actually worked to organize black workers as part of the Steel Workers Organizing Committee back in the early 1900s, and a whole lot of other people before me who, I know have worked tirelessly on behalf of everyone. But I do appreciate the sentiment. Because I really think that it's not about what I want to do. It's about the will of the movement and where we've been we've been building. We have a lot of great progressive leaders. We also have a lot of great leaders in the construction trades who work every day to try to work for equity and bring diversity to the trades. In fact, one of the programs that we do every year is done with the Chicago Teachers Union and St. Paul Ministries. We do a career fair. The legendary Audrey May, who was the assistant to Jackie Vaughn and every president through Karen Lewis, was one of the folks who helped us spearhead this. But we have a program that we're working on, one that came out of the United Way called Access United, and now it's fitting into a bigger project called Hire 360. And what I noticed in doing this work, in trying to bring people into the building trades, was that it's not about the lack of will for folks in the construction trades to want to have more people of color in the trades. It's being able to, again, have that equalizing force, right? It's, bringing to the contractors to the table. It's getting the community to understand what the legal requirements that are put on us by the federal government to bring people into apprenticeships. But it's also to work one-on-one with people in the community that want those opportunities to give them the best chance. We need to have a force that doesn't just fill one gap for one young person, but can fill a lot of gaps. Someone that can be there with them to make sure that they can get the tools, they can pay their dues, figure out transportation, and when they fall down, help them get back up.
So we're going to be working more closely with Bob Ryder. Omar is head of our construction division, and we're going to really focus on how we can expand opportunities. Now, Bill McNary is executive director of an organization that is always celebrating and working with labor. And I wanted him to really talk about the United Auto Workers and why they're on strike, but challenge us as we go forward. What is it we're going to do to make sure that the ordinary worker is not impacted negatively by migrant workers who come here and underpaid and overworked? We see a lot of them, undocumented people are working in hotels and restaurants and all sorts of jobs, and we get angry. They're not getting paid an hourly wage that's even near poverty. Some are making $2 an hour. So Bill McNary, Citizens United.
Citizen Action.
Citizen Action.
Yeah. Well, let me just start off by saying that Dr. Martin Luther King once said that too many people of goodwill have never connected bigotry with economic exploitation. They deplore prejudice, but they tolerate or accept economic injustice. But he ended up concluding that these two evils have a malignant kinship. In other words, Dr. King understood that you cannot have racial justice without economic justice. He understood that you could not have civil rights without labor rights. And so if our country is supposed to be a democracy and not just a corporate state, then its people must have freedom, and not just freedom of religion or freedom of the press, but freedom from want, freedom from poverty. So thus, one definition of a democracy is shared prosperity, and thus the promise of America should be for everybody and not just the wealthy few. In other words, labor and the community working together, we all do better when we all do better. And that's what this current labor struggle is about, Reverend Wilson. Unions are the key to democracy. It's as old as the First Amendment in the Constitution, the freedom to assemble, but not just the right for freedom to assemble in the political process, but freedom for workers to assemble in the working place as well. The bottom line is that joining together in a union gives all workers a voice. It gives the workers the ability to negotiate a fair return for their work, and it gives workers the chance to improve their working conditions. So just to piggyback and say what the UAW strike is about, well, that's about economic freedom. Big corporations, irresponsible politicians, and wealthy interests have rigged the economy and our politics against working people. The UAW workers made many concessions when the labor union of GM was fighting for its life. Now that GM has recovered and are making record profits, we believe that those people who sacrifice and for when times were bad are entitled to dignity, freedom, and a share of the wealth that they help create. And so that's what the UAW strike is about. Let me conclude by saying this. When labor unions are plentiful in the state, they lift all working people. The states with more union workers, everybody has a higher standard of living. Everybody makes more money. Everybody has better benefits. There's less poverty. There's less infant mortality. There are lower workplace fatalities. There's more retirement security, and they invest more money in education. And so the bottom line is that we need to fight for union workers, not just to have better wages, but to have more power to say what's right and fair in their workplaces. So the bottom line is that that's what this fight is about.
Well, the interesting thing is we're going to go to break on the Impact Network. We're continuing live on social media. We're live on Facebook. We're live on live streams. So those of you who are watching us on Impact, you need to switch over to rainbowpush.org, and you can continue this, hearing this discussion. One of the problems I had, when you look at the UAW workers, what they make in comparison to what the chairman of the board or the CEO make, I mean, how do you take a several $1 million salary and tell the workers they just have to do what they do? And so when you compare, I think it was $24 million a year for the CEO. No, the chairman of the board, he's not doing anything about a car at all, probably not even walking through the plant. And so the workers are struggling with an hourly wage, and many of them find themselves replaced by less qualified or maybe even equally qualified migrant workers who can't demand anything because they're not in the country as citizens, and so their rights are all marginalized. Yet these CEOs, when I look at CPS, we're going to have to dump the central office because we got the greatest amount of resources downtown, and out in the field, workers are struggling and marginalized. It's not good to pay somebody to administer themselves, and the schools are failing without libraries, without enough social workers, without enough nurses, without. And children are not getting the education. And now we're wondering what's going to happen if the schools shut down. Where will the workers who are already working 3 jobs without benefits and are marginalized, where are their children going to go? Who's going to take care of them for 8 hours a day? If I can barely afford to drop them off at school, what's supposed to happen? So that's some of the issues that we deal with. In the construction industry, we've got to look at how do we train workers for the workforce of today, and how do we open up these jobs? They can't keep making money at our expense. These developers have to be challenged, and we got to challenge them together, Bob. I'm serious. We got to go. The nurses, I'm scared now.
Well, don't be scared.
I'm scared. What about what we're going to do about these hospitals? And it's in Chicago, but they're all over the country now. Nurses are saying, I can't do this.
Well, don't, because
what y'all gonna do?
Under the Nurse Practice Act, especially in Illinois and states that have a more progressive Nurse Practice Act, which is the sort of the Bill of Rights, or however you want to describe it, that nurses work under. But in Illinois, we have very strong language that says that the nurse will work in the exclusive role as advocate for the patient. In some states, it says that the nurse will work in the interest of the profit for the hospital. But in Illinois, that's their charge, is that they have to be the sole advocate for the patients. That means that they're not asking you whether you have insurance when you come through the door. They're not asking you, those sorts of questions about whether you have the ability to pay, like you might encounter in some other hospitals in other states. And so what we do, the reason why we had the 1,700 separate incidents of unsafe staffing is because what we do in Illinois, and other nurses who have a union, you file what's called an assignment despite objection. It's called an ADO form. That means you accept the assignment, but you alert management and you say, this assignment is unsafe. And these are the things that you need to do in order to correct it. Now, that ADO is a legal document. So if something happens, that means that that occurrence is now on the license of the manager that did not take the opportunity to correct.
So here's what we have to do. We
them.
have to support our nurses. And we may have to stand on some picket lines for them so that they can protect patients. In Chicago, I know that children and others who are in critical care had to be relocated to other hospitals while the nurses were on strike. That is traumatizing. You're already sick, and you're already nervous about your healing, and now you're being transferred by ambulance to another hospital because the nurses are not available to provide the support that the doctors need.
There was a leaked document from the hospital indicating that they were going to do that and to characterize the need to move those patients as shameless on the part of the union and to shift the responsibility.
Right. But it's not the nurses' fault.
It's not the nurses.
So similarly, I understand that other unions are thinking about joining you with a strike vote.
Right, you mentioned where will those kids go for 8 hours? Well, it won't be the Park District.
No, because they're talking
And there
about
won't be any security officers in the building to assist the principals with the students that do go to school. If you recall on yesterday, or maybe a day before, Sun-Times had on the front page that parents were in disagreement with us and that the public is agreeing that the contract offers that we've been given are sufficient. They're not. And normally in the past, they have pit us against one another as unions, and they will have us out and have, seekers and other people in the building. But we're going to do this together. We're going to stand together with our community. We're going to stand together with other unions, and we're going to fight back. We deserve to have a contract that supports the needs of the students. It's not about salary. I want everybody to understand that today. It's not just about us making money. It's about the schools our students deserve. Our students deserve to go to a school and sit in a classroom where there's not more than 40 kids. They deserve to sit in a classroom with 25 students. They deserve to sit in a classroom with a teacher and a teacher assistant. They deserve to have a nurse on duty and not put the duties of for a clerk to administer medication. That's a liability. They're having teacher assistants and clerks and other staff members to administer medication. Children can die, and our members will go to jail. There's nothing that the union can do for them. We need nurses in the school. We need psychologists. We need social workers when these kids are watching their loved ones being slain in these streets, and they got to go to school the next day as if nothing ever happened, and there's nobody to assist them. That's what we're striking for. It's not about the money. We want our kids to have a place that's safe, that have every wraparound resource in the building for them. And then the compensation will come.
So here's what we have to do as a community, and Bill, you can help me with this. There has to be some action on the part of the people. We know that the school budget is not adequately funded. We have not gotten the state money that we should have. We got to go to Springfield. Our legislators have to push for more money for Chicago public schools now. This is not an option that we can't provide our children in public schools in Chicago, in the urban community and some of the suburban communities. But when you look at what they get in Neuqua Valley, what they have in Barrington, there is no comparison. And some of these suburban districts, because the formula that they use to fund the schools, they have more resources. That's right. The children have more support. There are smaller classrooms. It's not fair that I got to take the same test if I go to a school in the inner city, DuSable or Inglewood or Harper, and I'm competing with students who have test prep. They have a counselor. If I'm a special needs student, they have someone to walk with me to and from class every day. If I have to have a diaper change, they have a nurse to do that as opposed to the classroom teacher or the clerk.
And the city has the money. Legislation was passed. This city was given over $1 billion to fund Chicago public schools. There's no reason for them to say there's no money.
So
we're
going to help everybody get at the table, because the one thing that Rainbow Push, Push for Excellence, we are for the children. And if you look at what the children need and what the children deserve, that's where we are. I cannot imagine the school directly across the street from Push has no library, hasn't had one in years. There are more than 40 schools that have no library, yet you are required to do research. If your family doesn't have a computer at home, then how are you supposed to do it? No technology in the building. No technology. And so that's just one of many schools across this city. Why should we register and vote now? How is it we become more civically engaged? Bill McNary?
My wife and I just came back from Ghana this past summer, and the late Ghanaian leader Kwame Nkrumah once said that the reason that we should be engaged in politics is because winners of elections get to decide who gets how much of 5 things. Who gets how much education, who gets how much income, who gets how much health care, who gets how much housing, and who gets how much justice. And so if we are concerned about how we divide those 5 things, we must be engaged in politics, because politicians decide who gets that. But I just want to salute these workers that are on the stage that are not just fighting for themselves. They are fighting for all of us. All too often, we look at labor as fighting for their own individual parochial concerns. But if this is not about money, we must transform and not just reform the educational system, where some children are less likely to receive a high-quality education than resource-rich schools because of where they live or who they were born to. Too many black and brown children not only receive an inadequately funded education, but couple that with poverty and zero-tolerance policies that leads them from the schools to the prison pipelines. Children should be educated and not incarcerated. So let us be very clear that the current attack on public education not only serves but perpetuates an unjust system. And so my brothers and sisters, let me salute you to saying that you are agents of change. Every day you fight for quality, equal public school education for all of our children. You give students the tools that they need, not only to become higher earners, but deep thinkers. And finally, you make sure that a child is on time. You teach them not to loiter. You teach them to have respect for others. This is not a job. This is your calling. You're not just concerned about your own income, you are more interested in outcomes. So you fight for equal educational opportunity for all children, which means smaller class sizes, nurses and health care, clean and safe schools, nutritious meals, adequate support staff. You are building a just and democratic society. You are standing up for us. We must stand with you.
And we stand with workers, but there's this real conflict that we have. We stand with the nurses, and yet we stand with the patients. And so we must fight the systems that prevent them from having what they need. We stand with the teachers, and yet we stand with students who will be negatively impacted by a strike. They have nowhere to go. They're already behind other school districts. They're already behind other schools. And so we have to, as a community, pastors, you can't just ignore this. There was a call for pastors to step up. This Tuesday, there's a conference call talking about what is our response to the strike. Meet us at Push Tuesday night. We are concerned for the workers, and we're also concerned for our children. They don't need to be on the streets. The streets are increasingly more dangerous. And with a strike, they will be on the street all day long, especially the high school students. That's not an easy decision for the teachers to make, but nor is it a decision that the city can live with over a period of time. We want our nurses, we want everyone to get what they need in order to do the best job that they should be able to do, as you can see in other places. No community would tolerate schools closing and hospital beds being shut down because of a nurses' strike, except in a place where the majority are black and brown. And so I would invite you to join us. The fight continues. The movement is on. We can't allow our systems to fail. We have the power. And Reverend Jackson would tell you, it's in our hands. And we have to use what we have. That's why we say to contractors, you can open up these buildings and start building, but if we don't see ourselves working, we will shut you down. We are not going to allow everybody to work and the rest of us to starve. We're not going to allow our nurses not to have what they need to provide high quality health care for everyone that enters the hospital. We're not going to allow our schools to be diminished as they are now. And I would invite every pastor, every activist, you visit the school closest to where you are and tell me if that's the school that your child should go to. And then we're going to take some buses. I want you to see Neuqua Valley. I want you to go to Barrington so you can compare and understand what we're talking about. It's not okay that if I'm poor, I get poor education. I get poor quality schools. Some of these school buildings should have been torn down and rebuilt. They're not prepared. They don't have shades. They don't have air conditioning in the summer. I mean, it's just crazy. So we're going to make a difference. We're going to change. That's why you want to join PUSH. We can't fight every lawsuit you have. We can't do everything that you want us to do. What we can do is organize you so that we can fight back. And that's what we're going to do. We want you to join us. I want you to get ready to take out your memberships. I want you to write a check to Rainbow Push today. A membership is $35 a year. What do you get? You get somebody that's going to fight, somebody that's going to raise the issues, somebody that's going to march with you, somebody that's going to support your cry for justice. What do you get? It's not tangible. It's just like insurance. You need it now before you need it again later. You need to join us. We fought for nurses before. We fought for teachers to even get accredited in this city. And so this is not a new fight for us. We fought for the firefighters. We fought for the construction workers. We fought for the police officers. We fought for everybody to get a fair wage. And so now we need you to join us so that we can fight together. Register and vote. We have registrars at PUSH every day. Miss Betty Magnus is available to come to wherever you are. She has a team of registrars. Young people, we need you to come. The fight is yours. Join us. As the Mayhan is singing, I want you all to get ready to give. Membership is $35 a year. But Reverend would never start at the membership level. We want some of you to give as you've been blessed. Some of you are $1,000 people. Some of you are $500 people. Why do we need the money? So that we can keep moving. Our building is under renovation. It's not down. The roof is not falling down. We're not falling down. We're building up. We're refurbishing so that we can be a state-of-the-art facility for organizing and getting you on the picket lines. That's what we're doing. We're getting ready to go back to the streets. I want you to join me. Gonna be marching this week in the rain. Omar and I gonna go shut down a construction site. I don't know where, John, but while y'all are in Los Angeles, we're gonna be marching. Why don't you stand and prepare to give? Those of you who give $100 or more, join us.
Times in our life, we all have needs.
Meet me Tuesday night if you're in Chicago.
But if we go wise, we all need. There's always too.
Thank you, Pastor Bond and your young men, $100.
We all not strong.
Y'all can
How have you carry on?
Thank you so much.
For it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Oh,
Bahamas
it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody.
Everybody, would you stand if you want to give?
You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lead. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody. Oh, lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be here. Hey, I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long. Oh, somebody to lean on. Lean on when you're strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Oh, it won't be long. Come on, somebody to lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lead.
Shall we stand? Shall we stand? Hello, hello. We don't just walk out. We leave together.
Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry